Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to my fellow panelists as well as the faculty, as well as all the delegates who have joined us this afternoon. It's a privilege for me to introduce the next speaker. Our next speaker is Mr. Deepak Sharma, who is the CEO of IPC Health, a platform dedicated to getting healthcare workforce better prepared for the better care. He is a graduate of IIT Delhi and IIM Kolkata, and over the last decade has been associated with various technology products as well as service companies such as Wipro as well as Impulses. I request Mr. Sharma to begin with this.
Okay, great. We're good to go. Good evening and welcome everybody. Thank you for the introduction and thank you very much for the chance to be part of this panel. First, some housekeeping. So we are going to announce rebranding from IPC Health to Medlearn. You saw the video, which was made last year when we launched the product. So I thought we'd take this opportunity, what better place to share this new development than with some of our closest partners in the community that we serve very happily. So I'm happy to announce the brand early, but first of May is when we officially launch Medcare and retire IPC Health. Also, digital trends in healthcare training and development was a topic. It still is a topic, but I thought it would be much more succinctly put to say better prepared for better care. And that's also our new vision and mission statement that goes with the logo. So here it is, Medlearn's better prepared for better care. And you've seen the video in detail earlier when Samir talked. So I will get back to some of those things later in the presentation. Okay, what I'll try and cover in the next 10 minutes is basically a very interesting history of how very basic medical skill like resuscitation has evolved and how training is kept pace with that. I think this will illustrate three key pillars that I think will drive learning and training success in a hospital context, especially healthcare, in the next few years. I also want to share some recent Medlearn case studies from India and some local customers in the Gulf region and what we've learned in the Indian environment operating the last year and a half. I'll close with how we plan to do a bit during these times and with utmost humility. We'll really welcome any hospital decision maker in the panel or the audience who want to utilize us, Medlearn, for their training continuity through these tough times. Right. So this is the interesting story, right? It looks a bit amusing. These are how resuscitation techniques have evolved through the ages. Starting from the first picture you see on the left, and these are all from the American Heart Association website. And AHA is a very, very close partner with us. So I've taken the liberty to put them together. The first one is actually rescuers whipping the victim with stinging nettles or striking them with their hands to stimulate a response, right? Then you see in the next picture, somebody actually putting fire or ashes, anything to stimulate body response from the victim, right? You see somebody using bellows in the next picture, somebody's inverted upside down, somebody using a barrel or a horse. Surprisingly, some of these, especially the barrel or the upside down techniques, used to work very well in Europe in drowning cases. And sometimes by waterfront, the barrel technique still works when there's nothing else, right? But here's a little more recent look, right? What we understand the current CPR or the cardiopulmonary resuscitation process evolved more recently in this manner. The first time it was the Leroy method in 1829, where the first time the victim was put supine. Mouth to mouth evolved in 1958. In 1960, chest compression and mouth to mouth were first put together, and which formed the basis. And obviously, there's been a lot of progress since then. And at the forefront of that is the American Heart Association. We've come a long way. So they spend billions of dollars over the years in research. They update their guidelines every 5 years. And it matters a lot, even if it is perfecting the compression depth when you're giving the CPR, frequency, the use of AED, and in hospital scenarios, using ECGs when you have advanced life support, right? It's saving millions of lives every time they tweak the technique and improve the quality. The performance and the success rate goes up. And this is not just in hospitals, it's in emergency situations, homes, workplaces, everywhere. But has the training kept pace and how, right? Let me elaborate on the challenge a bit. The challenge is to propagate these techniques and as they change and evolve to millions of trainers, right? And again, people who are going to use maybe hundreds of thousands of trainers and millions of people who are actually going to perform these techniques. And as this changes, this is just a sample, right, of how healthcare techniques are changing and are going to keep changing. And how does one ensure that the newest or the latest techniques are being propagated to the audience, right? So 7 years ago, we were working with the American Heart Association. They used to do more than 2 million trainings annually, advanced life support, basic life support. We used to manage books, certification cards across thousands of hospitals. It used to take 1 to 2 days to complete the training. It used to be a classroom session, hands-on skill assessments, give a certificate, and then repeat, every 2 years. It was also part of CNE. Today, the resuscitation is performed dramatically differently in the training scenario. It is no longer once in 2 years. Skills like these can be easily forgotten unless they're practiced very frequently. Participants sometimes report feeling not very confident, not being trained for 2 years. On the other hand, if you do very frequent training, hands-on training with the objective feedback, it really boosts the confidence and success of participants in real life situations. So in the new paradigm, there's low dose, high frequency training. The entire process is instructorless. Trainees complete part of the theory online, they take a test, they pass the test, then they automatically schedule themselves at one of the practice stations, which could be inside your own hospitals. Most of the large hospitals have this in the US now. And there's a state-of-the-art mannequin with embedded technology, combination of sensors, connectivity, applications. Trainees can then train as often as like, typically it's once a quarter. And they get instant feedback in success parameters, and they walk off every quarter with renewing their basic skills requirements, right? And once they achieve the right depth and frequency of compressions, they're given a thumbs up by the machine, and they finish the training for that session, right? And how do we solve these problems on scale, right? This is the result of this. So the learner productivity has gone up from spending 2 days every 2 years to 30 minutes every quarter at their own time and convenience. It's instructorless. The learner is getting confidence from a very precise set of measurement sensors, applications, and analytics. The hospital productivity is zoomed. There's no instructor involved, no senior doctors, nurses. They need to spend time out for 2 days to train people. There's zero administration time in scheduling, CNE administration, etc. The quality assurance is the maximum level because it's all based on the latest research. And thousands of US hospitals, millions of learners are getting trained on this. On the right side, you see the partnership that's enabled this. Laerdal, which is a long-standing partner of American Heart and Impulses, and they formed the JV called RQI, which is a resuscitation quality improvement. And Impulses, which is the parent company for IPC Health or MedLearn, where I work, is the technology partner for these platforms. Right. So, I hope I illustrated 3 basic pillars on what I think is important from training. The blue circle is the actual learning content that needs to be imbibed and actually reflect in skills and competency. The yellow one is the pedagogy, which determines how effectively the learning is happening at the individual level. And the management of training at scale in a hospital environment is the third green circle, right? Courseware and the first, we're familiar with this outside healthcare, right? What we've learned is just tip of the iceberg, right? A lot of this content is going to keep changing and the courseware will keep developing, right? So the courseware needs to be authoritative, it needs to be research-based, sometimes needs to be adapted to the region. And also in many hospital scenarios, it needs to be also supplemented with the hospital's own content, right? So a lot of this is just going to gather pace as new developments come to the market. On the right side, you see the current content partners on MedLearn, including the Royal College of Nursing, and the ones which are coming soon, right? So we're trying to create this ecosystem based on the feedback from hospitals in different markets and what they need. And this is just the beginning, right? Then the adult learning strategies and features which are familiar with outside healthcare, which is feedback, learning, etc. We, like the badges, Khan Academy, Simply Learns. In many ways, healthcare has been somewhat slow, but in MedLearn, we've actually deployed many of these strategies based on what we've heard. And also these are being adapted based on the content available. So many of these features and techniques are available in our platforms. Third is the hospital workflow. This is a bit very well thought through in terms of what hospitals really need in India elsewhere, including compliance tracking with NABH, JCI, other audits. If there are systems for certification and CNE, integrating with those systems. If you have credentialing systems, integrating with those, developing learning paths. And I said before, we now recently launched something called Course Builder, which means you can build your own content. And this is a very useful use case in the Indian scenario where many hospitals have their own training content, have their own workflows, sometimes key procedures, standard operating procedures, manuals, etc. All of this can be assimilated into the platform. Hospital functionality, and this is some of the core hospital or the institutional functionality. Continued from the last slide, it can be online, offline, self-paced, instructor-led, integrated with talent management, HRMS, reporting, analytics, you name it. I think most of the core TMS, LMS functionalities are too many to mention. but all of that is now part of the Medlearn platform and ecosystem. In India, we have, I'll talk about how much we have onboarded, how many hospital institutions there, about as we now speak, about close to 128 or 29, around 30,000 learners in our ecosystem in the last year and a half. This is one case study of Cloud9, right? So what they're using it for, what are the kind of content they're leveraging, what is their own content they're putting in there, especially the things that they're using for, being a large chain of different units, standardizing and improving productivity, improving induction experience, and also improving patient experience by soft skills training, right? Similarly, there's a different example from Solapur. Ashwini is a large multi-specialty tertiary care unit, more than 1,200 employees, and they have all the challenges from onboarding faster. Typically, a training of a rookie nurse, maybe a GNM takes around 9 months with 4 hours each of senior nurse time, etc. every week. So they're looking to leverage our system, use the communicator, which can do virtual classrooms if you can't do physical classrooms in COVID times, leverage NABH training. Also, they're putting their own content, which is in local language. Sometimes it's a need. They develop their own content, and we help them put it onto the system. Right. Another case study, again, KIMS is something again we're very proud of. This is another pioneer in training who chose to work with us, gave us our first entry to the Gulf market. And one very interesting aspect of this case study is how they're leveraging the system to digitize the knowledge testing, also shortlist recruits when they actually hire people. So literally winnow down the field from hundreds of candidates to 5 or 10 who actually meet the knowledge requirements to get further into the process. Okay, learning's best practices, as I said, 128 hospitals, nearly 30,000 folks. They're using different parts of the content already on the system. They're developing their own content. We've seen very high success rates in some of the best cases. The success stories in using for accreditation training. We have dedicated hospital success managers that help with implementing existing processes, as well as helping a hospital develop new processes. And really, we work closely with any hospital that needs to really make this work for them. One interesting use case for the virtual classrooms. As of now, as we speak, physical classrooms cannot happen because people cannot gather inside a hospital. What we are seeing is a massive response to our webinars as we train gratis on basic COVID and infection control processes. But the hospitals are also beginning to come back to us saying, can we use this for, really make a classroom virtual because people can't gather in a place. So that's one simple use case that's really helping some of our hospitals a lot. Now, let me come to the final part of my presentation. I think it's a little bit of time, but we recognize it's a busy time, right? Hospitals have a very different priority, even in the best of times. And these are very challenging times. Also, not every hospital has a need for every feature. Everyone is a different learning maturity level. You have different processes for getting software, using it, procurement, etc. But the need of every healthcare organization which needs to keep its skills up to date with the changing situation, changing guidelines, changing need for staff, is to basically have continuity of basic training during COVID times. Whether it's NABH compliance that you need to make sure it's completed on time, induction when you're hiring new people, safety, infection control, all of this has been disrupted. And this is what we are hoping where we can help, as a public service. So what we are saying is that any hospital decision maker in the audience or in the Kaho network, we are happy to support you through a free COVID continuity platform. It'll help you enable training continuity through these times, help you do virtual classroom training management. There are some free COVID content resources. You can add some of your own. There'll be a mobile app for all employees. And if you want to basically need some basic support, we should be able to offer it to you within this overall thing. So I am actually done with my presentation. I want to thank everybody for the time. I also want folks to note again the email ID. I can broadcast it, but Medlearn name will be official 1st of May. So any information that you need will still be on ipchealth.in.
Thanks, Mr. Deepak Sharma. Impressive presentation, impressive timing of the presentation, as well as the impressive tool that you discussed with us. In fact, I think with COVID times, there will be some changes that may come in the way we train our team. Not only during COVID times, even otherwise, I will be requiring such tools because objectivity in training is something that we lack otherwise. Thanks, Mr. Sharma.